Hi, my name is Ashley Adamson, and today we're talking about late stage trans. Now, late stage is very relative because for me, I have been transitioning for 5 years and I have identified as a female for almost 3 years, and I've been on hormones for about 3 years. I've known some trans girls that have been fully transitioned for over 10 years. And I want to talk today about my learnings of what it's like to be someone who is pretty much at the long tail of my transition, the little things. Most of the transition is done. Expectations versus reality. Are you ready? Is this something that'll interest you? Also, if you have any questions that I don't address in this video, feel free to write them down below and I'll try my best to address all of them. I love you guys. So, expectations versus reality. Well, what do you expect? What do you expect starting out when you're thinking about your transition? Where do you start? I think expectations are grounded in two different directions. You can have unrealistic expectations, and then you can have expectations that are just based off of a lack of knowledge of what to expect. And I feel like I started there. I started in a place where I said, I don't know what's going to happen. Will it work? Will I end up looking good? Will men be willing to date me? Will I look good enough that I can date a straight man and that he would be happy to date me? Would I be accepted in this world? Would I find people that accepted me? And all the things related to being accepted, right? What about my body? Will I ever find the body that I want? Will I be beautiful? I think this was probably one of the bigger things. And it sounds really dumb. And I feel like to just say this to you it sounds superficial. Will I be beautiful? I think that for me, it's something that I've looked in the mirror and really asked myself since I was 12, looking in the mirror and saying, I see something that could be beautiful, but you're a guy. And so, oh, well, could have been a beautiful woman, but oh, well. And I should have really paid attention to that because had I really understood that, it would have really helped me get to where I am today a lot earlier. And so I have asked myself this question as sort of something that's important. And, for women, beauty is important. Beauty is a part of your value in society. And I don't mean to say that as like a way of saying this is true, but this is kind of true. This is kind of like how society works, unfortunately. And so having that attractiveness is something that I care about and something that I've seeked out. Okay, so those are kind of some of the questions I had. Those were some of the things that I wasn't sure or wanted to know too. I'd say in general, it was sort of this open book, stepping into the unknown and kind of going with it, just saying the direction I want to go is I want to be a woman. I'm taking hormones. Let's go. But I even started not even saying I wanted to be a woman. I just wanted to take hormones. That's where I wanted to start because I wanted to stop the masculinization of testosterone. I don't know where you're at, but if you started taking hormones, where were you at before you started taking hormones? What were some of the expectations or even some of the constraints or fears that you had when you jumped into that? If you haven't and you're considering it and thinking about it, what are some of those questions that you have now? If I'm not able to address them in this video, just let me know down below and I'll try to get to them. So I remember kind of like having that sense of, will I be beautiful? Will I be dateable? And will I be accepted? And I'm 3 years in now, or 5 years in, but 3 years on hormones, and I've had breast surgery and FFS, and I'm still a bit swollen. Someone asked me about the stitches on my lip, and you can still see them because it's only been about a month and a half. But so will I be accepted? Yes. That happened within, I'd say, 3 or 4 months, I was accepted. Now, I was accepted by my close friends who knew me, but not accepted by people that didn't know me or that I wouldn't pass for. If you're trying to pass, and passing is a thing, it took me 1.5 years on hormones to begin to pass. And it didn't take me, I'd say around 2 years, I started to pass all the time. And around the 1.5 year spot is when I started to date men. And now I've kind of shifted my preference to dating men, mostly or exclusively. Women are into me every now and then, but it's more like a kind of like touristy thing. Oh, that's fun, but not really for me. Because for me, something that I didn't really realize was how important it is that the energy is right between me and another partner, and how the partner can really help me transform by creating that space for my femininity to expand. And a part of that is being very masculine and kind of pushing me into that space in some way. So that's something that I didn't really realize was a big part of my transformation and helped me get to this other side of self-acceptance, of seeing myself more as a woman. There's just like a huge trough of despair. I don't know where you are in terms of your transition, but when you start your transition, it's this really big, exciting moment where you feel so euphoric and yay, I'm embracing myself and I'm being so true and look at my nails or my hair, or my makeup or my dress, whatever. And then there's reality sinking in where you feel like you're in this trough where you're like, body dysphoria, am I being accepted? I got misgendered, no one's accepting me, or maybe they are beginning to accept me, and you kind of get out of this trough eventually. And however long that trough is really based on your own ability to succeed in taking care of yourself, in managing yourself, finding the support you have, and stepping into it, you know? By the way, I should put an aside, if you're interested in embracing your femininity, I do have a project that I'm working on that I'll announce on my newsletter, and I'll link my newsletter down below if you want to sign up. But it's a femininity program for trans women. If that's something that you're interested in, I'll be shooting out some emails in the coming weeks. So, yeah. My expectations starting out, I wasn't really thinking about my body so much, but I'd say in the middle of the trough, my dysphoria when my body got greater and greater, that I needed to really start to seek out help for surgery. So I got FFS and I got breast surgery. That was kind of like a big thing. Another big thing is dating men. Now I date men. Men are attracted to me. I pass, like, thank God. I didn't know that was going to happen. And I still have a complex about how I feel, not attractive. I feel more attractive now because I've gotten the old face out. But looking at your face from like in a different way since puberty and always kind of feeling like it didn't look right does a number to you. And that takes way more than 3 years. And I should call that out. Expectations versus reality. Late stage transitioners, people that I know who have transitioned for 10 years, they forget about the struggles of being a guy or being a girl and transitioning over because they've been living in it for so long. They've been able to detangle all of the trauma, all of the stress, all of the things that they weren't really able to get through at the time. I kind of want to give you an analogy. This is an important one. The voice in your head. That's the thing that I didn't really pay attention to or really understood, is the voice in your head and how it changes. You don't really realize there's a gendered voice in your head until you really start to audit yourself and really start to look at your own gender and how you're experiencing it within you. Gender is an interesting thing because it's a social construct, right? Like, do you buy into that story? It's something that you socially experience. And if you were whatever gender you wanted to be in an isolated experience, there's no social construct to hold it together. The only social construct that's left is you. And I've felt that, especially in isolation, that when I am the only person in my vicinity to validate or experience me, it's hard because there's a lot of deep programming where I've operated and experienced repositioning myself as a man constantly. Deep repressed inner transphobia and fear of being trans can really lead, can really lead you down routes where you start to recondition yourself constantly that you're a man. And so for me, it's been a long unwinding of self-perception of how I move and how I see my movement, my gait. That's something that I'm working on right now, is how I walk. All of these things can reaffirm your gender one way or the other. And I kind of liken it to your voice, him stepping in and him stepping out. And when you're not used to being a woman and you've embraced that already, or the other way around, you're going to use what you're most used to. If I drop my phone and I'm wanting to catch it in that moment, it's going to be whatever the shortest neurological pathway that's going to make that fire. And whatever is going to fire in my brain is probably going to be tied to a certain masculine approach to doing things. That is going to change over time, but this stepping in and stepping out of the masculine character versus the feminine character is a thing I'm still working through, and it's that nuance. It's the longer tail for me. It's a lot easier when you're transitioning to go, okay, here's my checklist of things to do, and I'm going to do them. I'm going to get hormones, I'm going to get makeup, I'm going to get a dress, or, if you're a trans man, I'm going to get all of these things, and then I'm going to be done. My transition is going to be done. But that's really just you working on the external factors, which are very easy to locate because they're external, they're tangible, you can touch these things. But the internal stuff, that's the hard work. That's the things where you see them for a second and then they disappear. Or they're there all the time and they've been there all the time and you never notice them because it's like the color of the wall that has been that color of the wall your entire life. You don't even question it. You don't even look at it. It's just something that you don't notice. It's just a part of the room until you start to realize the room has a color. That kind of nuance in your self-perception really can help you move through the internal. So, when I wake up in the morning and I look at my boobs or I look at my face in the mirror or I'm wearing a dress and, all of these things, I'm like, okay, like I'm a woman, but there's parts of me that don't feel like a woman. And when I find those, I go, oh, like that's a part I need to work on. That's a part of me that needs to be worked through. So that's kind of the thing that I didn't realize was a big part of this transition and shift. I could go on for days about this, and if you have any questions or would like me to dive into any other topics, I'd love to hear from you and love suggestions for topics. So hit me up, write me a comment. If this is your first time, say hello. Thank you for joining me for tea time today. Okay, see you. Bye.